Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's edition of the BME Blaze interview. My name is Henry Hess. I'm a professor of biomedical engineering here in the department. I'm also the chair of the graduate committee and the co-chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. And today, our BME Blaze interview is in honor of Pride Month, which, as you may know, is the month devoted to the celebrating the LGBTQ plus community. I was very excited to participate because when I was a student, I learned pipetting from a gay scientist named Michel Schumer, who was an amazing guy who taught me a lot about doing science and became a great mentor and friend. And so I was very excited to have the opportunity to interview Kevin Burt, who is one of our graduate students and also the president of QSTEM, the LGBT organization in the engineering school devoted to the LGBTQ plus community. Welcome, Kevin, and could you please introduce yourself?
So my name is Kevin Burt. Thank you for the slight introduction. I'm super excited to be doing this BME Blaze interview and the whole being the BME Blaze spotlight. So as Henry said, I'm the current president of QSTEM, which is the Queer in STEM graduate student organization here at Columbia, specifically within, obviously, STEM fields within the C's department. So yeah, a little bit about me. I'm from Montana. I came to Columbia to join the graduate BME program in 2017 for my master's. And from then I bridged into the PhD program. And obviously I'm still here now working towards my PhD. And in addition to like everything we have going on academically, I've also been pretty involved in student life within the graduate engineering program and specifically within BME. I started on our Go BME, which is just like our graduate student organization, doing like social events for them, and then being like a student representative on the Engineering Graduate Student Council. And then from then on, I also took over the role of president as QSTEM, president of QSTEM, and since then have just been trying to kind of get the organization up and running again. It kind of died out as a few members of the fizzled out, I guess, a little bit as a few of the previous board members of QSTEM went on to graduate. So they kind of needed someone to pick the group back up again. And so I was reached out to, and it was a super awesome opportunity. And I've really enjoyed the whole process of it. And then within this past year, Henry also invited me to serve as a member of the DEI committee. So that has also been kind of like bridging my responsibilities with QSTEM, has been serving as like a queer representative on that DEI group. So that's just another super awesome avenue where I get to kind of like bring my identity into my academic career and kind of merge the two. So I'm really excited about it, obviously.
It seems your plate is quite full. Has it always been like that, or how did that evolve?
Yeah, I think that is always my MO, is I take on everything that comes my way. So similar in my undergrad experience, I was a member in many different student group organizations and just like a really, I guess, trying to be like a part of like the student life there. I think that, and then at BME, I've kind of taken on a number of different roles. And I don't know, I think it's really important to just like help build up our student population as a community. And I think that's one of like the really awesome things about BME has been how like big of a community there is. There's so many socials, everyone's very connected. I feel like working with the faculty, working with Alexis, you and Helen, and everyone just like day-to-day basis kind of makes it feel more like a family within the BME department. So I don't know, I've really enjoyed that whole experience of taking on these roles where I get to work with the faculty and with the students directly.
I'm glad you feel that way. I hope it stays that way after all the exams and defenses and so on.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I don't know, in my future, I'm looking to go into academia, and I think that I would like to continue to play a role, not just as like a PI and a professor, but as someone who's involved with, I don't know, many of the things you're involved with, and like student life and everything along that vein is really, I think it makes the experience a lot better.
Mm-hmm. As a gay man, how do you feel you experience your graduate studies in a different way, or is it same as for everybody else?
I think it's an interesting topic, because going into Columbia, I don't think I was as like, maybe not as confident as expressing like myself and my sexuality and being a gay man in my like work life and in my academic life. So I think that kind of comes differently for every different person, and like depending on when you decided to, like embrace that part of your life, or when you decided to like make that step forward. And so I think it's been different in the sense that it's just in the past, it's just more of a taboo, I would say, or has been in engineering and in the work life. It's like, it's not something that's talked about a lot. And I think that's just some of the hardest, like has been more of the harder parts for me, where it's like in the past, I maybe haven't been comfortable. I would like in my undergrad and early years here, I honestly would never think about sitting down with you or a professor and talking about it. To me, that would be like so intimidating, and so it just didn't seem like something that I would ever be open for the table, or something that we're talking about. And I think in recent years, I've really made a switch working with QSTEM, and then as well, I think like our department has like really made such like a great effort in trying to like bring everyone to the table and try and hear everyone's have everyone's stories be told. And so I don't know, it's been really a roller coaster for me of like coming from Montana and like being very ashamed of who I was and like not wanting to ever talk about it at school, and now being at Columbia, having like these interviews like this and many conversations with you. It's just like, it's crazy how much things can change on like just a day-to-day or year-to-year. I think it's really exciting how more progressive, open-minded everyone's becoming, and like how everyone's kind of taking a step back and realizing there is more to the picture here. There's more voices. There's more like discrepancies in even just the percentage of people within STEM fields, and how that plays into racial inequalities or sexual minorities and everything like that. There's just like a lot more that needs to be discussed, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's a journey for everyone. It's a journey for you as a gay man. It's a journey for me as a straight man in learning more about other people who have a different sexuality, and becoming more comfortable just by being exposed to them. And when I look back at the last 20-25 years, I also went from somebody who didn't know anybody who was gay to having gay friends, being at weddings of a trans man, and really being just exposed to other people and embracing them and experiencing this as normal. And it's and I think everybody is on that path in different ways and at different stages, I think. So now we're discussing Pride Month. Does Pride Month have a special meaning for you, or?
Yeah, and I think touching to what you just said is how over the years you've been exposed to it more. And I mean, you always hear that like in like the past researching or like looking into like, I don't know, the literature on the racial inequalities in STEM and everything like that, or even the gender inequalities in STEM. I mean, when we first started to all the big movements with like grad SWE and everything for women in engineering and women in STEM, the whole thing, or one of the largest avenues of that is representation. And as you've said, like you're now just more exposed to more people within the LGBTQ community because now we're talking about it more. And as like simple as it seems, the representation, like it matters so much. And to me personally, like it matters like more than like someone who is straight would ever know. Like having this representation is like, if I was an undergrad and I had seen this representation, it would have just helped me out so immensely. And so I think that's like one of my now like a goal, definitely a personal goal I have, and why I like to do stuff like this and be on QSTEM. It's like, I want this representation out there. I want everyone to be exposed to it as much as possible and talk about it. And I think Pride Month in general is just like, to me, what that's like one of the best outcomes of Pride Month. I mean, whether people like it or not, it's in everyone's face. It's like when you're open the news, you're on TV, you're on social media, it's there. And coming from like a rural place growing up, I didn't see that. And I think that kids growing up in rural places or places not like New York City or people in STEM fields who aren't exposed to a lot of different minorities, they're now seeing this. And I think it's so important to have Pride Month and for it to be everywhere and everyone to be proud of it. It's like a reminder to myself of how proud I need to be so that like other people can see that and younger people can see that, or older people, anyone can see this, see someone being out and expressing whatever gender they want to express, expressing whatever sexuality they want to express, and just be happy. Seeing someone proud, happy, out in every sense of the way. I mean, there's people that obviously may not agree, but like you can't knock them down. When someone is like very proud, celebrating Pride, like nothing's gonna like take me down during that time. So, I mean, it's extremely obvious. It's extremely important to me. It's important to everyone in my community as well. And it's also like a reminder that people couldn't always do this. I mean, the first Pride wasn't a parade, it was a riot. It came from like oppression. It came from it just came from a place where like a stand had to be taken. And so it's like important for everyone to realize what we're celebrating, why we're celebrating it. And I don't know. I mean, I think in recent years, I've seen it grow so much, and it really makes me happy.
How do you feel about this balance between let's celebrate and let's take a stand? Is there tension, or do you see it goes together pretty well?
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I mean, I see there on social media and in the news. I mean, there's definitely people, and like as it should be reminded, that the first Pride was a riot. Like I said, like the first Pride wasn't this what it is now. And so I think it's obviously it's a reminder that we need to talk about that during Pride Month as well. And I think it's a mix of both. You need to remember where we came from, remember where everyone before us came from, what they had. And like, I mean, that's even me being selfish. Like when I said I grew up and I didn't see any gay people or didn't see any gay representation, like at least I grew up in a time where I wasn't being like attacked on the street or like having something so much more dramatic. Like I come from a lucky enough place, but even to me, it's grown. So it's like remembering what people in the past have gone through and what the LGBTQ plus community has gone through in the past, but also, I mean, celebrating the hell out of it and really just I mean, being happy for how far we've come, and I mean, realizing how much more there is to go, but it's an exciting time for me nonetheless.
Yeah, I think it's, especially in the US, a lot has changed, right? Of marriage equality becoming established. And it was actually surprising to me when I was talking to a German colleague, and he mentioned that he's gay and he could not marry his partner. And I had to remind myself that even in Western Europe, it's not a given thing that gay people can marry and so on.
Yeah.
So a lot of progress. What are the things which still bother you? What do you think is on the agenda now?
I mean, I think it's, given the recent years, it's definitely very scary that there is still such a possibility of a population of our country, speaking to America in specific, it's scary to me that it's possible that someone could become into like a government power position who still like just does not support the LGBTQ plus community. And so that to me is like, I mean, it's hard to find like what the remedy to it is, as it seems like populations of people who support the queer community and populations who don't, it seems like maybe, like, I don't know how we will get to a middle ground. I mean, obviously to me, it doesn't seem like there should be a middle ground. Like everyone should just accept everyone for who they are. But I think that's one of the scariest things, is that there's still elected officials who can pass laws that just directly hurt my community. And so I think we just need to be like continuing to elect more progressive people into public office, and be really thoughtful about like your government officials and your elected government officials and what they stand for, and like really understanding that some things can't be sacrificed. Like maybe someone stands for something is more financially how you align with, and maybe you can push past that. They'll, pass some bills that maybe affect the trans community, but you're not trans. Like those are things that we can't choose one over the other. Like we can't have someone thinking they can elect someone for financial reasons and forego maybe that they're not supporting trans rights, or they're passing laws that it makes it more difficult for a trans person to live their day-to-day life. Mm-hmm. So it's things like that where we've definitely come a very long way, but I mean, there's obviously a lot more to go, and I think that hopefully we're trending upwards. I mean, the recent election was emotional for everyone. It was extremely emotional for minority communities, and I mean, I like to try and be optimistic, and I like to be hopeful that things are going to continue to progress in a way that's more open-minded, and I guess that's all I can really hope for at the moment.
I agree. When you look around the department and the school and the university, what do you like and what could be better?
I mean, I guess I like so much about how open our department is to, like, given the recent events of Black Lives Matter and everything happened that last summer, like many departments in many places across the country really took it on and were like, okay, like let's try and make some actual progress with this. I really like how our department handled that, and how you specifically handled it, and you served as the head of the DEI, and I think that stuff like that was really awesome for me to see. And so I definitely love that about our department. I love what's happening here and the support for QSTEM as well. Since taking on the role of president of QSTEM, I've only had support from within the department, and many of the department just didn't even know it existed. So I would say, I mean, what I maybe in the past, what I wouldn't have liked would be just like I had said before, where none of these diversities were really talked about. I mean, maybe we talked about gender diversities or racial diversities, but maybe like sexual minorities were not as discussed. So, but I mean, Columbia, we're lucky. We're in New York City. We're very progressive here. I'm like extremely happy with my location, I guess, and how like in tune people are to these like progressive changes. So, I mean, I see no problems there, like coming from previous universities, which maybe did not have any of this. It's eye-opening to see like where other parts of the country or even other universities, it's a reminder, I guess, of like how I hope that this will just continue to spread and like more, I don't know, more conversations like this will be being had.
Maybe that's a good moment for me to quickly advertise the Columbia University LGBTQ+ resource guide put together by the Office of the Provost. So you can find that on the Columbia website. And it talks about what's going on with respect to the LGBTQ+ community at Columbia. And I found it very interesting to read about the history of activism in this direction at Columbia. So, so Columbia actually has a rich history of advancing the LGBTQ+ agenda, starting 50 years ago in the 60s, I think. So, Kevin, what are you most proud of in your time here at Columbia or previously?
I would say like splitting that into two avenues. I'm proud of like how far I've come, I guess, like in my thesis and everything. I started the program as a master's student coming from a civil engineering background. So I had like taken one biology course and got here and really everything was completely brand new to me. And I also didn't get into the PhD program, but I knew that's where I wanted to be. So I sat down and emailed every single professor that was looking for volunteers, like down the list, like every single one would send out so many emails a day. And then I started going on interviews. I managed to get into a lab, which is where I'm in now, and like learning everything completely from the ground up in like a brand new field was obviously very challenging, but very like exciting on a day-to-day basis. So as I'm now nearing the end of my PhD, I recently proposed, had a thesis proposal, and I'm like realizing really the amount of work and the amount of like personal and academic growth I've gone through. So that was like a really proud moment, I guess, when you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel and you're just like, wow, like I will get there. So that's really exciting. And then like, as we've been discussing, I'm just really proud of everything that has happened with QSTEM and me kind of coming into my own identity within the LGBTQ+ community. Like I said, it's things that when I was in high school or in undergrad, I was so afraid to ever talk about. I like would never, if you would have said I would be doing this, I would never have believed you. I like refused to talk about it because I was so like ashamed, embarrassed, afraid. And now I'm just, I guess, really proud of like personal growth as well as the growth of like those around me in departments like the BME, like our BME department, who think this is as serious as I think it is and as many people think it is. Yeah.
Thank you. I agree, quite a few accomplishments and quite a journey to get there. So what advice would you give other people from your experience, based on your experience?
Yeah, I would say I would give the advice to maybe someone who's in a STEM field or not in a STEM field, but feels like they're maybe like, or maybe they are a sexual minority, like within their academic surroundings. I know that academia, it's not something that's frequently discussed. Like, yes, we discuss racial minorities sometimes and gender minorities in STEM, but we're not always talking about members of the LGBTQ plus community. And I guess the advice I would give is to if you can, start having those conversations, seek out possible, I guess, like mentors, or seek out possible ways that you can begin to have these conversations, whether it's with your peers or with faculty or something along those lines. And I guess that it just like, it will work out. Like, you're not, even though people who are just coming out or just entering the LGBTQ plus community, once you start to realize that you're not going to change anyone's opinion and people's opinions of you really do not matter, you'll start to really like kind of, I guess, live your life as authentically as you can. And I think there is a place for that in academia, and though it may seem taboo, it's something that is extremely important, that we bring up and that we talk about.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And from the other side, I think it's good advice to just treat members of the LGBTQ plus community as regular people. You can to talk to them, and it may feel awkward in the beginning. Practice makes perfect. And
Yeah.
So I think more talking and more exchanging is excellent advice.
Yeah.
Kevin, anything you want to add to our discussion before we end?
Not that I can think of. I mean, I feel like I got a chance to say what I wanted to say. I'm extremely grateful for this opportunity, and to be able to sit down with you and hopefully have students see this from Columbia, or potential students, or from other universities. I would say, like, if you have any questions about QSTEM or the LGBTQ plus community, or my experience in STEM, or if you want to talk about starting a QSTEM program or anything along those lines, to reach out to me, and I would be extremely happy to help you along with any of that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Kevin, for sharing your experience and your thoughts. I hope it inspired a few people to pick much from you after you graduate, and keep QSTEM moving forward and alive and going strong. And yeah, thank you again for joining us, and good luck with your studies.
Thank you.